Welcome back in, everybody. This is Pro Football Enterprises. I am Ben Parker. That's Austin Freed, and that's Shane Ratliff. And all of you know who all of you are, so we appreciate you joining in. This is the second installment of a series that we'll be doing for as long as we feel like it, and that may go on for years, okay? Called Fixing College Football. And all three of us, Austin, Shane, myself, we love college football. We really do enjoy it, but we would love to see improvements made as well. Last time on our first episode, you can check this out on this same channel. We talked about how many teams we would love to see get in. Now, we are not naive. We know how much money is involved here. We know the reach of the people who make the decisions here and how much they like/need money, and that there's going to be more expansion coming. It's going to go to 16, and at some point, it's going to probably hit 24. We get it, but tonight and every show, we're stating our preferences for how we would like to see college football get set up. So, what we came up with was as a group, we tended toward an 8 team playoff. Last time we were here, we felt like that was usually there's only about 8 teams that really can compete for a title, but they're already at 12. So, we were all generically in favor of leaving it at 12. And we're generally opposed to expanding it farther than that, even though we know the magnetism that the money involved has and what that's probably going to do. Tonight, we are switching to an not entirely, to a different study here. How should the teams get selected? Okay. Now, and this was Austin's point here. At some point, we may change the whole framework, but for now, tonight, we're going to keep the current basic setup. We're just going to try to tweak it a little bit. Okay. So we're not tonight anyway, we're not looking to realign conferences or change teams from conferences necessarily. We're not
Just you
looking at
wait.
okay,
It's coming.
maybe Austin is. It is coming at some point. I promise. We will do that. But tonight we're going to take this setup as it is and just try to install a rule or two, a tweak, a boundary, a limit, an improvement, something to make it a little bit better than what we currently think it is. All right. So if you in the audience have ideas, and I know you do, because that's why you tune into a show like this, post them. All right. I don't really need to hear criticism of our ideas from the village trolls, but if you have ideas that are constructive, I'd love to put them on here and check them out. So feel free to have all the conversations you want in the comment section. Austin, we'll start with you tonight. I think you have a combo of ideas here. So, what is team selection? What's something we can make this better?
Yeah, so I'll just start out with one thing kind of on its own here, and this is something that I think should be done no matter what other things we get thrown in here, and that is to eliminate the college football playoff weekly rankings. I think that does nothing but muddy the waters and uh, confuse people with the AP poll. There's these two separate things. The AP poll is completely pointless now, really,
Mm,
other than giving people something to see on the screen that's like, oh, this is
right.
the number 13 team. But the number 13 team for the AP poll and 13 team in the college football committee poll are going to be completely different most of the time. And they mean two very different things. Like if you're 13th in the AP poll, you're like, oh, well, they're not even close to number one, so it doesn't really matter. But if there's 12 teams in the playoff, 13's like right there on the edge. And then it just creates all sorts of confusion. So I think we should stick to just the AP poll. Let that all year be the thing that shows on the matchups. We just see the AP poll, the college football playoff, then at the end of the year decides who is in. They don't do this the whole time leading up to it because I think that creates these awkward situations like we had this season in particular with teams like Alabama moving around erratically and Notre Dame not getting in and Miami getting in. And it's like if they wouldn't have had all this preset thing, then they could just put the teams that they think deserve to be in and not have to like justify things in awkward ways. So that's my first suggestion is just getting rid of the weekly college football playoff polls. Just stick to the AP for now, and then when the time of the year comes to make the 12 team, 16 team, 8 team, 32 team, whatever it is, it just comes out and it's just like boom, surprise, here's what we think.
Yeah, and I see. Okay, so I like the polls because they were part of my childhood, but you don't need an official poll. You can literally scroll to your favorite website and see what their opinion is if you want
Mhm.
polls. All right. So there's really no need to start having official opinions formed in week, during the summer. You know,
Right. Yeah.
there's no need for these people to be doing that, right? Before we've even played a game, there's no need or reason. Shane, I'll let you chime in on that in just a second, but there's really no need for that. Okay. So if we were to eliminate kind of the official poll that comes out, every week and long before, during the summer, long before the season starts, if we were to eliminate that, we would start to at least eliminate some of the official bias, I guess, that you could say that exists or seems to exist long before we ever get to team selection here. Shane, we're kind of choosing as a group here. How are you feeling about that particular item?
No, I agree with Austin. I think, like you said, though, Ben, for me, anytime when you talk about these AP polls and that blend, you think about the times where you had like a Nebraska and a Michigan where both claimed that they were champions because they never had to play each other, but one
Yep.
poll said that they were the number one, the other poll said that the other team was the number one. I think it also harkens back, and you hate to kind of tie in more NCAA bureaucracy, but it's the same thing that happens for the basketball championship. You spend all year saying that this team is this team is that, and then at the end of the day, after championship week, a bunch of people sit down and go, "Okay, now you're the fourth seed, but you're not as strong as this one, so we're going to send you to Albuquerque instead of letting you play close to home." And that
Yeah.
means that, and like Austin said, why project that out where now you're going to have to answer questions about what you thought 2 weeks ago based
Yeah.
on now how the poll plays out? uh, there's never going to be a perfect system, but like Austin said, you leave yourself open to have to explain why Notre Dame doesn't get in. Where if you just did that at the end of the year and you go, okay, here's the 12, and then they can go like, hey, I really think Notre Dame probably should have made it. But you're going to go, well, I mean, this is how we did it. This is how it goes. They give no opportunity for you to say, well, 2 weeks ago, what made them the number four? They didn't lose any games, and then now you're going to tell me that they're the 13th team. I agree. I think that balances out. I think this has become one of those ones where each year they add more AP writers, they add more people to coaches poll just to let these people vote. And then you go, well, then why do we have this voting system for the championship? If we're going to have these 13 people make these decisions, then why does somebody else's decision who writes for, the paper closest to me that has no Division I college football team within 300 miles get to make a selection on what they think should play for a championship?
Excellent. I think we all fairly agree on that, fairly close. Shane, let's go to you. What's something you would try to tweak, change, limit, boundarize?
I think so. Kind of playing off of what Austin said with the, um, poll setting. In my mind, I kind of like it was set up in the way that the NFL does playoff brackets. Once you set your teams, I do really think you would help yourself by making some form of regional play where you said, okay, you were going to send you away because you're the weaker of these top four and play it out like that. I think uh, it would help to kind of combine how some of this goes. It would also lead to teams wanting to raise themselves up a little bit at the end. Um, as you hear about how the SEC is like, hey, we're probably just going to drop games because now we're hurting our top teams by them playing another week and nobody else is playing. I think we're going to get to a point to where, and I think Austin will probably agree with this, there's going to be some radical changes coming because uh, if nothing happens quickly, then things are going to need to be completely torn apart.
Austin, let's kick it to you then. All right, Shane's starting to talk about some regional play involved here. How are you feeling on that, and on that kind of side of things?
Yeah, that's something I hadn't necessarily considered too much, but I do like where you're going with that. I think in general it's something I could get behind. Not something I'd considered too much though. But yeah, I like where your head's at.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. It's not something I put a lot of time into. I during the regular season, I have thought a lot more. I have not a lot more. I have thought a lot about regional play and regional games that I love to see. I do feel like during the season, as these conferences get bigger, you'll start to see more of that regional play return because they'll essentially be two conferences stuffed together that used to be separate. So it will allow for more of the regional play. But I hadn't connected that here to the end with the selection. So, Shane, go ahead and give us a final thought on that. And then I'm going to trot out my couple of little suggestions here.
Yeah, I mean, my big thing for that thought is that I do think that in the very near future, you're going to have these super conferences even more than what they are. And I think that that plays more to an NFC AFC model for how you do it because it's going to become very regionalized. I think you could like the Big Ten has kind of thrown this by the wayside now that everybody on the West Coast is also playing everybody on this, and then you still have New Jersey in the Big Ten as well. So it's a
Yeah.
mixture of how that thing's going, and I think that that's going to come to fruition probably very quickly because um, and I think Notre Dame is kind of the culprit in this because for years they played the independent game because it fit what they wanted. They could pick a schedule that was favorable to them. They could also play big money games, but then they could also work in a team that was very good, and then everybody got to see them on national television. It elevated them. They tried to when this whole model happened, Notre Dame basically negotiated themselves a get out of jail free card. And then this year they didn't get a chance to pull it. And then that led to Notre Dame saying, we're not going to play football anymore. We're taking our ball and running away. But that is the reason why these things are happening. You have to set the rules to where it's going to work and you're not giving anybody a leeway or these real competitive teams are going to start going back to where Alabama plays three FCS teams in the middle of their schedule. They play Georgia once because it's demanded, and then they're going to look for whoever else they can play. Because if we're going to stop playing divisional games, then what does it matter what your final record's going to be?
Fair enough. Let's go to my two little suggestions. I'm going to trot them out both at the same time, then I'll kick it back to y'all for a little bit of discussion here. Number one, this probably is my favorite one as far as tweaking the system. When it comes to teams that aren't in the top conferences, right? We all expect the top conferences, SEC, Big Ten. It's not hard to put in the top teams out of there, but the James Madisons of the world, for instance. Okay, my rule that I would love to put in place is I want those other conferences to have a path. I want that. I think that part is good. I'm not looking to eliminate that. So I love those teams, whether it's a Boise State some year, whoever. I love that they have a chance to get into this thing if they have a good year. But I don't need a 9-2 team showing up or a 10-3 team showing up and getting burned out, by 40 points. I don't like that. So my ruling is you either got to be ranked in the top 15 to qualify, or you have to be undefeated, one or the other. And if you fit one of those, I don't even care which one we go by, but if you fit one of those qualifications and you're not in one of these top five, top big conferences here, you're the top team out of that smaller group, but you got to be undefeated or you got to be ranked in the top 15, like people legitimately respect you, that you've shown enough flex that people think you can get in here and at least put up a fight in the first round, right? So that's going to be my first rule change that I want to put in here. The second one it's not directly this, but I think it fits the category. I would want the discussion by the panel who picks this. I would want it to be broadcast where everybody can listen to it. Okay. And what really inspired this thought, because I've thought about it for years, but what really inspired me to think that it might actually be possible was listening to the ACC. They now put out during live games, you can hear their officials talk about how they're going to, way back in the room, the teleconference room, how they're going to make the call. And they go through everything step by step. It's really transparent. Even if you think they're coming up with a bad decision, you can at least hear how they got to the decision. And I would love to be able to hear that, not only for entertainment purposes, but you always wonder, well, who was really, really pushing for Alabama in and Notre Dame out, right? Who's really driving that, you know? And it would really clear up any questions. Maybe it would confirm some questions about who's pushing for certain teams and why. I would really like that as well. So, Austin, let's get you back in here. Reaction to either one of those.
I like that. I do agree. If we're going to have this group of five rule where they're going to be in, then there absolutely needs to be some sort of stipulation. So for me, that stipulation, I thought about adding this as well. That stipulation will be beating a team that is ranked. You have to have at
Okay.
least one win versus a ranked team. But I also am in favor of yours as well. I think there just has to be some sort of stipulation there and a strong one, not one that's weak and very easy and a team's going to clear this
Right.
ber every year. I need to
Right.
see a strong case for a stipulation. And I think you laid out two strong ones there, and the other one I had, I think it was a strong one as well. So, yeah, as long as there's some sort of strong stipulation, I don't mind having this guarantee for a group of five to get in as long as they meet that threshold.
I appreciate it. And listen, I wouldn't even care if you had all three as optional stipulations if they qualify for even one. I
Yeah.
don't think we're asking too much for them to meet one of those qualifications in a single season, to get in. And it's not, listen, some of these coaches, when they get left out of the playoffs, you talk about the crying that goes on. All right. I mean, just the absolute bawling that goes on. It's not out of sympathy for those guys. Okay. Just win more games is my feeling on it. But I don't feel like it's fair to anybody to have teams get in who we all question maybe they shouldn't have got in the first place, and then they lose by 30 or 40 points. I just don't think that's a legit way to run a top 10, top 12, top 16 kind of a playoff. If they ever expanded to 32 or goodness gracious, God forbid 40, if they ever expanded to that, then fine, who cares? But that's my reaction on that. Shane, your reaction to either of these two stipulations we're trying to put in?
No, I like the stipulation because, like you said, if there has to be an element of proving it, you know, it, like yeah, you can run an undefeated schedule, and not all undefeated schedules are equal. That's not how the world works. It's not how it's ever going
Yeah.
to play out. And I think, especially this year, because it ended up the teams that were in that group of five, almost every single one of their coaches was going to take a better job. You put the players, you put the team, you put the school in a terrible spot because all these guys are looking at the next job. John Summerall, he's moving on. He and his wife donate money to help Tulane on the way out the door, but getting stomped didn't help Tulane on national television. And I don't think that he cared less about Tulane winning than he did about taking another job, but that's the way it goes. Bob Chesney's leaving JMU to go take over UCLA, and the Dukes get pounded again. It's
Yeah.
you put yourself in a terrible spot to where people can question the validity of those teams making it at all. The biggest thing about those games where you take like a Boise State beats Oklahoma is that people didn't think Boise State could compete. And then they are in a bowl game and they show that they can. The more and more times that the low seed just gets pounded, you stop caring. Like the reason why they worry about it in the NCAA is because now all of a sudden, the one of those 15 seeds is going to beat a 2 seed. It's a probability match now, and now 16 seeds have won. So now all of a sudden, there's also an element of betting that goes into that. Where you're like, okay, now we can put some money on these low teams, and that's really what perpetrates these moves by the NCAA. They want the money as much as everybody else does. They've proven it time and time again. And if you're guaranteed that low seed is going to lose every game, you know people are not going to tune into that. And I think the numbers this year also showed that some of those early games were not as well watched as they were in the past because they were just blowouts. If you're not watching real football after the third quarter, your numbers are going to go down.
As a group, we'll basically recommend trying to install both of those things to anybody who will listen. Austin, do you have one more tonight? Or I think you got one more.
I
All right, go ahead and hit
I
us up
do,
with one.
yeah. My other one is to become conference agnostic entirely. Uh, what are conferences? If you ask the college football playoff, they shouldn't have an idea that they even exist. That is my, I think, more important solution here. You get rid of any sort of, I mean, every team should be Notre Dame. Like there's no in-conference game schedule or win-loss versus your own conference. There's no conference championship. That game doesn't exist. Like they shouldn't even be allowed to even have TVs on during that game. Like teams should be able to bench their entire starters, go out there and trot out an all freshman team against whoever they're playing, get beat 113-0, and then not move at all in the rankings. Because conferences don't matter, so that conference championship game isn't a real game. Because what is a conference championship if there aren't any conferences according to the college football playoffs? And then this also completely eliminates this group of five BS where we're seeing JMU and Tulane get in and all these other failures of teams that have tried to get in the playoffs. And I understand every once in a while it's going to be super exciting. Like it's going to go crazy in
Right.
13 years from now when the first one gets their win. But it's just not worth it at all for the amount of complete garbage football that we have to watch that's considered playoff football. It's
Yeah.
just not. It's not worth it. So get rid of that. Make those teams who like are definitely talented. I'm not going to say that those teams don't have a lot of talent on them. They do. But if they want to try and make the college football playoffs, you're going to have to schedule real football teams on your schedule and win a couple of them and like prove by film and like record and opponents played and strength of schedule and things like that prove that you were deserving, you are one of the 12 best teams, whatever number that is 12, 16, 8, like I said, 32 probably at someday. But the college football playoff needs to, I think, combine a lot of everything what we're talking about. But my 2 points specifically, you don't have these polls showing where people are, and then at the end of the year, you just say, here are the 12 best college football teams. They are going to now play it out. Doesn't matter what conference they are in. It doesn't matter what the AP poll or the public thought about them. This is a group of people's decision that this is the 12 best teams who have the like you just do go by straight Vegas rankings. You say, okay, what's X team's odds of winning the championship? Is it higher than this team's? Yes, they are seated higher. And you just do that until you find the 12 highest percentage chances of winning the college football playoff. And those 12 who have the highest percentage chance get in. I don't care what their conference is or what their in conference schedule rank was or who they played in the conference championship or if they won or if they lost it or what. Like none of that matters. It's strictly, like I said, the percentage of them winning the championship. If they're in the top 12 highest percentage of winning the championship, they're in. Obviously, it's not as simple as that because there isn't
Right.
like a formula you can plug in. It's people's opinions on who they think the 12 most likely to win are, but that's the best way to do it. I think hands down, you're not going to beat that method.
Austin, I've actually never thought about that before. And 20 years ago, I don't think I would have liked it. And I'm not even sure I would have thought I would have liked it if you had trotted it out a couple of years ago. But I actually like it. Okay. The conferences have become so mixed and mismatched that they really, I don't want to say they have no meaning, but they don't have any heart or soul to them anymore. I mean, heck, we've just obliterated a couple of them. I mean, literally blown them up, you know? So, swallowed up the others. And it's gotten to be, I mean, okay, it always has been political and it always has been power play type stuff. But now you can just see them openly making moves that are nothing but power plays and money grabs. All right. So, the heck with it. I actually think, because I love the regional play, Shane mentioned that earlier. I feel like this would largely encourage a lot of these teams to go back to regional play with mixing in a couple of high level opponents to make sure strength of schedule and everything is worthy of them having a chance at the playoffs here. So I'm in favor of this. I feel like the conferences, by and large, it's not that they have no flavor and no regional value, but They've watered it down so much. I just don't like it anywhere near as much as I used to. So, Shane, I'm going to give you two options here. You can either hit a quick take on this, or if you've got one more adjustment you want to try it out tonight, take your pick, and then we'll shut this thing down.
No, my take would be on Austin's agnostic divisions and conferences. I completely agree on this because I think the conference championship games now are an absolute joke because it actually hurts you to play in there because even if you win that game, if you show you only win by a touchdown, you give the voters something to go, well, they weren't as great as we thought they were. And I think the perfect example of this is not so much this year, but in years past, especially during the Saban Kirby Smart run, you could legitimately say Alabama and Georgia were the two best teams, and every single year you made them play in a championship game, and whoever won that game then automatically became the best team. And the other team loses its spot and then has to fight for it again. I agree with that. I think the other thing is you look at, and you mentioned it, Ben, as these conferences have kind of grown and become something. Look at like the Big Ten. There's years where you could win the Big Ten. You never had to play Ohio State, Penn State, or Michigan. Well, how can you be the best team if you never had to play the three power? Every single year, those three have been the top. So how do you're Northwestern. You're the champion of the Big Ten. You didn't have to play anybody that's above a top 25 ranking. That's what this is going to come. And I know, like Austin mentioned, like that's where the whole Notre Dame scheduling thing came from. We're going to play enough teams to where we keep in everybody's mind. We're going to play Army and Navy because our constituents going to want to watch that game. And then you pick, Stanford because you think you're the same educationally. And then you play USC because we're the power teams. And then Notre Dame goes, okay, we'll play in the ACC. So now they play Syracuse on a down year, a 2-6 team, and they get a victory after that. They play other teams that aren't great. That would eliminate this whole philosophy of where we're picking and choosing who we're going to play on years. And like this year, you've seen teams drop agreed upon games 4 years down the road because they went, hey, yeah, no, we're not going to play Oregon in Ireland on the first week of the year and ruin our year before we even get started. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's conferences were all generated to, control the way these things happen. And there's been plenty of conferences that have died that have now basically become rebirthed in the SEC. Like the Southwest Conference, the Big Eight. All those things are back packaged in a different deal now where we had to destroy those conferences before. So, I mean, I love it to where you don't have – it's play football. And then it doesn't matter where you're attached. It's your record and who you play, and then we figure it out from there.
Quick summary for those of you listening. We're trying to eliminate the weekly rankings in any official capacity. Obviously, any websites that want to have them can have them. But as far as any official capacity early on, we're going to eliminate those. We need those smaller schools to be either ranked in the top 15 or have beat a ranked team or be undefeated or something to actually earn, that spot in, other than just being the top small school that didn't, that wasn't automatically in. With transparent discussion from the panel we would love to have, and then conference agnostic, where we just do away with these conferences that become watered down largely. So those are some of the things that we talked about. And then Shane was talking about the regional play as well, connected to the playoff stuff as well. So those are our, tentative resolutions. Everybody, we could keep talking about this for a long time, and we will, but it'll be on the next episode. We have a lot more of this coming. So thank you, Austin and Shane, for hanging around late. Really appreciate it. Thank you all of you for watching. We have a lot more of this coming over the next few months and probably even years. This is Pro Football Enterprises. Have a great one. Goodbye.